Let us be in the spirit of prayer together. God of all compassion and tenderness, we humbly confess our impatience when our lives do not work out in the manner we ourselves have prescribed. We confess that we tend to demand instant results from you. In so doing, we miss the miracles of your step-by-step process of healing and wholeness. Forgive our lack of trust in your mercy. Help us recognize the healing ministry of your Holy Spirit as we encounter you in every area of our daily lives, even in this moment of worship. In the name and compassion of Jesus Christ, forgive and renew each of us. Amen. Friends, hear the good news. We know that God forgives us again and again, full of mercy, compassion, and acceptance. And in this we give thanks. Amen. Let us join together to sing our opening hymn, In the Midst of New Dimensions, number 391.
Our first scripture reading comes from the Psalm 46 from the Inclusive Bible. God is our refuge and our strength, who from of old has helped us in our distress. Therefore we fear nothing, even if the earth should open up in front of us and mountains plunge into the depths of the sea. even if the earth's waters rage and foam, and the mountains tumble with its heaving. There's a river whose streams gladden the city of God, the holy dwelling of the Most High. God is in its midst. It will never fall. God will help it all at daybreak. Though nations are in turmoil and empires crumble, God's voice resounds and it melts the earth. God is with us. Our stronghold is the God of Israel. Come, see what God has done. God makes the earth bounteous. God has put an end to war from one end of the earth to the other, breaking bows, splintering spears, and setting chariots on fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted upon the earth. God is with us. Our stronghold is the God of Israel. And our second scripture comes from Ephesians 3. Paul, a prisoner for Christ, to the church in Ephesus, grace to you and peace from God. You have probably heard how God's grace was given to me, and how the mystery of Christ was made known to me. I have become a servant of the gospel, to share the news of the boundless riches of Christ, and to bring to light the plan of the mystery hidden for ages in God, who created all things. The treasure of God's wisdom is now being made known to all people. For this reason, I bow my knee before the giver of life, from whom every family in heaven and on earth takes its name. I pray that you may be strengthened in your inner being through the power of the Spirit, and that Christ may be present in your hearts through faith, as you are rooted and grounded in love. I also pray that you may come to know what is the breadth and the length and height and depth, and to experience a love of Christ that is greater than all knowledge, so that you may be filled with the fullness of God. Now to the one who by the power at work within us is able to do far more than we could ever ask or imagine, to God be glory forever and ever. May these words comfort, challenge, and inspire us. Thanks be to God.
This morning, during our sermon time, I'm going to share a personal story with you. Really, I feel like I'm going out on a limb with this story, but I decided to share it with you. This is a story of one of my experiences when I was on retreat at the Mercy Center in Madison this past late winter. And the name of this story is Jesus of the People. And I actually put the image on our altar of Jesus of the People so that you could perhaps look at it later. It's an image that is done by one of my favorite artists, Jan Richardson, and her vision of what Jesus might have looked like then and now. So here is my story. It was dinner time. I had brought up the things to my room on the second floor of the Mercy Center overlooking the ocean, and I did some unpacking. It was quite chilly that day, so I bundled up and walked out to the beach about an hour before sunset. I was the only person on the beach. I walked close to the water, and my eyes immediately set sight on a large pearly clamshell and a piece of sea glass. I put them both in my coat pocket to place on the windowsill in my room, a treasure to remember during my time of retreat. I walked toward the rocks by the water until I could go no further. And suddenly, a young man literally leaped over the rocks and appeared before me. He looked beautiful with his dark curly hair, dark eyes, dark complexion. And even though it was very cold and I was bundled up in my winter coat, he was barefoot with his pants rolled up a bit and wearing a light sweatshirt. We said hello to one another and smiled. I continued, and the man sauntered down the beach the other way, his hands in his pocket. And then I heard a soft whistle and thought that maybe the young man's dog was nearby. Because our scripture at worship that morning was about Jesus calling the fishermen to follow him as he began his ministry, I thought maybe he was calling me to follow him. So I turned around and I continued to walk down the beach, and eventually a dog did appear, running by me very fast and then up on the lawn of the Mercy Center. And I could not see the man any longer and wondered where he might have gone barefoot, because there really wasn't too many ways to go. He wasn't at the end of the beach, and he didn't turn around back the other way where he came from. So I walked up the steps to the lawn to go back into my room. And right before I got to where the building was, where the dining room is, I heard this very, very dramatic, very, very loud swooshing sound. And all of a sudden, two large seabirds just kind of whished overhead and landed on the roof of the building. And then they disappeared. And then I turned to my right, where there was a little clearing in the meadow on the side of Mercy's lawn, and I saw the young man standing there. It was almost like he had released those birds into the sky and was watching them with me. He then gazed at me. Our eyes met. And then once again, he literally disappeared. Of course, I went back down to the beach and through the meadow, saw no sign of him at all. I couldn't imagine where he had gone because, as I said, there was no other way out. You either had to come down the steps and back out to the beach. So that night when I was in my room, this experience and this young man stayed with me all through the night. I just couldn't let go of what I had experienced. And I immediately thought of the image of Jesus of the people, because this man's face and hair and persona reminded me so much of that image. The next morning, I took a photo from my deck just after sunrise on the water, and the image of golden rays beaming down into the water reminded me of God's presence. And as we heard in our psalm today, that indeed God is always with us. And drops of gold from those sunbeams were on the sand where that young man had walked. So, of course, I pondered this experience all week, because in my heart, I absolutely knew that I had seen Jesus. The whole encounter was so simple, so informal, so non-dramatic, yet intensely personal and sacred. Why was I chosen, I thought, to see Jesus that evening? It surely was a gift, a blessing. Something had been given to me. And every day while I was there, I watched at the same time to see if I would see him again. And I never did. And all my time since that day that I've been to Mercy, I've never seen him. Even though I shared this experience with my spiritual director the next day after I returned from retreat and prayed to Jesus about this encounter, but I really didn't receive any answers or messages about this experience. And then about a week passed, and I took a walk on Saturday afternoon around my lake, and I was still praying about what this experience might mean. Did Jesus want me to know something, to learn something? And perhaps Jesus of the people was inviting me to follow him, to be a disciple, to share with people the good news that Jesus does indeed walk with us in our midst today and every day. I believe that Jesus, the Holy One, comes to us when we least expect it, when we least deserve it, perhaps, and in many different disguises. We just need to believe in the miracle, to accept in faith, and then to go forth and do as much good as we can to be the face of Jesus in all of his mercy and grace and love and compassion and forgiveness. I could have, of course, thought that this was just a young man out for a walk on the beach with his dog. But I know it was much more than that I really did encounter Jesus of the people, and that he appeared and disappeared just as quickly. He was there at that one moment in time when I was alone on the beach. Perhaps this miracle was just Jesus as an ordinary man, walking with an ordinary woman on the beach, asking me to follow. So another week passed, and the following Sunday night, I was still thinking of my encounter when I tried to get to sleep. And I looked out at the trees, and there was a full moon, and again I prayed to Jesus, what is it really that you want me to know? And I turned again to my experience with those birds, because that was also very puzzling. These birds coming literally again out of nowhere. And because that young man was also watching the birds with me, I thought maybe that somewhere in that experience could be the message. And I was reminded of Jesus' baptism in the River Jordan, when Jesus came out of the water and he saw the Spirit and heard the Spirit of God descending like a dove, alighting upon him. And that voice from heaven that Jesus heard, "This is my beloved, with whom I am well pleased." Perhaps that was the real message, the real gift from my encounter with Jesus of the people, that he was reminding me in the flesh, along with those birds overhead, that I was his beloved. And God will always be my beloved. And I know that I am called to make sure that all God's people know that they are God's beloved always. Jesus offers us his healing love as God's beloved. And we are always invited into that love, into that golden light. We just need to notice, to believe in the many faces of God walking among us today and every day. Amen. away.